Well, thank you very much for staying and welcome to PM Express. And today we have a big story. The Kenya general elections are on. Counting is underway as we are talking about, and they have their own heated political contest just as we have here. And now we're in a global village, so what happens to one country definitely affects the other. And it's also very apt that you concern yourselves with international matters. Now, I'll give you a little background. Now, the Kenyan constitution requires there to be a general election on the second Tuesday in August in every 5th year of any president's term, and there have been public discussions to move it to December because they're saying that August is just about the time the fiscal year ends, and just in case there's a runoff, the institutions that handles elections will struggle. Now, their electoral system, the president of Kenya is elected using a modified version of a two-round system. Now, in order to win the first round, the candidate is required to receive 50% of the votes and 25% of the vote in at least 24 counties. Now, that's complicated, by our standards. Now, they have 337 members of the National Assembly. They are elected by two methods. 290 are elected in a single member constituencies by the first past the post voting, and then the remaining 47 are reserved for women and are elected from a single member constituency based on the 47 counties, also using the first past the post system. And then the 67 members of the Senate are elected by four methods. 47 are elected in a single member constituency based on the counties by first past the voting, and parties are then assigned to share 16 seats for women, 2 for youth, 2 for disabled people based on their seats they share. So these are some of the backgrounds in Kenya, and I'll be giving you more stats as we go along. And I have two fine gentlemen who will brief us on what's happening in Kenya. My name is Nanan Sakwao. There's no elections in Edumasa, so I am president until God knows when. When I come back, we're talking Kenya. Don't go. Well, thank you very much for staying. As we were saying, we're looking at the Kenyan general elections. They voted all day today, so the counting is underway as we are talking about. If any breaking news comes, indeed, we'll cross over to Kenya and have a word with somebody on the ground to tell us what's happening. But with me in studio, sat right next to me, who's already paid his Ambantam, because it's not first time on the show, is Dr. Ziblim Idi, who's an international relationship expert, Honorable Member of Parliament for Gushegu, and Deputy Minister for Tourism. Wears many hats. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Good. And if it's good, it must happen twice. So we have another doctor in the house. We have Dr. Echisi Kanku, who is a lecturer of School of Communication Studies, University of Ghana, and an absolute communication expert. And he also hosts the show International Affairs on Live Class FM 91.3 Friday mornings. Brilliant show, honestly, brilliant show. You'd want to tune in Friday mornings and just listen to international affairs, indeed. And I must say that Dr. Chisikanku has already dealt with Kenya. So I'll start with you, Dr. Chisikanku. Do you find the Kenyans are, politically alive just like us as we are in Ghana?
I think they are. Democracy is taking root all across Africa. It is people's preferred system of governance. People are now aware. This is a country in which technology is very, very much in use. You remember when CNN made that faux pas about Kenya, they went live on Twitter and there was a lot of tirade on Twitter, a lot of blowback. So people are plugged in, people are engaged, they are following the political process, and people want to make their voices heard, especially in the political system where a certain group of people have dominated the political system over a long period of time. There is a lot of interest these days, and the population of Kenya, the young people, account for about a little over 40%, almost half of the population. And so these are people who are plugged in, who are engaged, who want to take part in and make their voices heard, both online and on the streets as well. So I think the political atmosphere is very, very vibrant. You know, the East Africans like to have a good party as well. You know, so there are people who are very much engaged and very involved.
Well, as far as East Africa is concerned, let's just cross straight to East Africa and speak to Maurice Ongala Uma, who's a development consultant and also an activist who is very much alive with the political happenings in Kenya. Maurice, you're welcome to the show, PM Express.
Thank you very much.
Very good. And let me say your friend, Dr. Echi Sikanku, is my guest this evening as well.
All right. Say hi to him.
I will. I will. Maurice, just what's the atmosphere in Kenya today?
Early evening, when voting had just stopped, it was very calm, and the transmission just started at about 7 p.m. From the various polling stations and the local tallying centers to the national tallying center. But unfortunately, midnight right now in Kenya, and the situation is not getting any better because there is a bit of tension. There was the Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission press conference at 9:30 Kenyan time, and that did not happen. Same as the NASA coalition, which is the opposition. They were supposed to give two press briefings at 7:30 and at 9:30 Kenyan time. They did not do that. And what we are made to understand right now is that this is because they have been in a crisis meeting with some electoral observers, the IEBC, the Electoral Commission itself, and the two major parties, that is the Jubilee Party and the NASA coalition. There seems to be some dispute which is not coming clearly on the mainstream media, but some of us are privy to it, although it's not official. But you can be able to tell that this is the reason why actually the two factions have not come out to address the media at the intervals as they had promised. Now, as we stand right now, the incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta is leading with 55%, and Raila Odinga, who is the opposition leader, is following with 43%. You also need to remember that only 50% of the total vote have been relayed to the national center. So this is 55% of 50% and 43% of 50%. If you get what I mean. So it means there's about half of the national, half of the votes that are still out there that have not been relayed to the national tallying center. Back to you.
What was the percentage that turned out to vote? I know there's just under 20 million voters in Kenya. What's the percentage that turned out to vote? Are the numbers out yet?
Well, no, we cannot be able to determine that until the last vote is counted.
Okay.
Because the vote tallying is still ongoing, and that's why we are only at 50%.
Okay.
But I think with time, but the projections have it that this is the most hotly contested election, and as such, we have seen numbers coming out to vote like no other time in the history of the country. So we can only maybe speculate based on what we observed during the polling period, but we will get the exact figures as time goes by.
Maurice, can you explain to us, because we in Ghana have a slightly different system. I know the president, to be elected has to win 50 plus 1 votes, and then 25 percent votes in at least 24 counties. How does it work?
Yeah.
Hello, Maurice?
Yes. Yes, carry on. I can hear you.
Yeah, I was wondering how does it work? This, because once you get your 50 point plus one, you have your majority. But then how do you win the 25 in at least 24 counties?
Yeah, you see, when you have your 50 plus 1%, you really have the majority. But you see, just to solidify the majority, I don't know whether to call it to reconfirm or to sort of to act like a popular vote,
Okay.
just to see how popular this, how acceptable this particular candidate is across the country. Because logically speaking, you cannot have 50 plus 1% of the total votes cast if you're not really popular. That is majority already. Mm-hmm. But I think under the new constitutional dispensation, it requires that such a candidate also needs to be popular in at least 24 other counties. Out of, we have 47 counties.
Okay.
So 24 is just about half of the counties, total number of counties, which is not a big deal for someone who has 50 plus 1%.
Okay. And I know tribe plays a lot in Kenya. So I mean, who belongs to the most popular tribe? Is it Uhuru or is it Raila?
Well, in Kenya, it's not about popular tribes. It's about the you think the populace or popular?
Well, populace as in many.
Many. Oh,
yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. That's definitely President Uhuru. Uhuru Kenyatta belongs to Kikuyu. The Kikuyu are the most popular. They have the biggest numbers. It's the largest tribe in Kenya, and followed by the Luhya and the Luo, where Raila comes from.
Okay.
Distant 3. Yeah.
So I mean, if you belong to the Luo, where can you go and get vote from? Like from the Kamba, the Kisi, the Luhya? Because basically you can't go to Kikuyu to get votes. I mean, which tribe will warm up to the Luo?
What has happened over the years is that we have seen a situation where tribes that are coming from a particular region cluster together and form a coalition.
Okay.
For example, the Kikuyu, where President Uhuru belongs, they come from the central part of Kenya, close to Mount Kenya. Okay. So there will be tribes around the Kikuyu, namely the Meru, Embu, and so on, that will definitely vote alongside the Kikuyu because these are their neighbors. Okay. And Raila, being from the western part of the country, there are the Luyas and then the Kisis that are surrounding the Luos who are likely to vote with them. Now, another funny trend is that Raila is from the western part of the country, but he also has another stronghold at the opposite side, which is the coastal side, where there is the second largest city in Kenya, Mombasa, the coastal city. That is Raila's stronghold. So it really tells you that it's not by and large the tribe. Well, the tribes play a very huge role in Kenyan politics, but at some point we will be able to disentangle the individuals from their tribe and from their tribal affiliation and look at their popularity, because we realize that someone like Raila is popular almost across the country except in central Kenya. So he's one candidate who can go and campaign at the coastal city and get so many votes. Actually, even the results that are coming in today indicate that he is still leading in the coastal region, which is totally different from where he comes from. Yeah, and even in Nairobi, which is the capital city, and he is still leading. So, the tribes will play a big role in determining who becomes the next president, as it has done before. But the popularity of the individual candidate, which will be occasioned by probably their manifestos or how well they campaign, will also play quite some role.
Now, Maurice, I know you have ears on the ground, and maybe you know what we don't know. But what happened to the Ghanaian official, observer that got deported? I mean, has the state given any reason why he was kicked out?
Well, so far the state hasn't given an official position. What we saw circulated in the mainstream media is that this guy wasn't an electoral observer. Actually, we were told that he was affiliated to the NASA coalition.
Okay.
There are two things that happened. Apart from just the deportation of the Ghanaian official, the same day, just before he was deported, the tallying center for the opposition party, the NASA coalition, was raided, and the police were adversely, the Kenya police were adversely mentioned as to having been the people who raided that place. So the government has kept quiet about this. They haven't come out to talk about it. Okay. They have been very quiet. So when the NASA tallying center was raided and the equipment, like electronic equipment and gadgets, vandalized, and the staff were harassed, and their ID cards were taken away. And then the next thing we hear is that a Ghanaian man who was affiliated to the opposition party has been deported. So when we got the information that this guy wasn't actually an affiliate of opposition, it was actually an electoral observer, it came as a shock to I think most of us. So there's some bit of foreplay that we think from the turn of events that the government is trying to play, either to disenfranchise the opposition or to conceal some critical information as regards the deportation of the Ghanaian official.
Now, Maurice, let me put you on the spot. I don't know. I mean, are you a Uhuru guy or are you a Riley guy?
I don't know how this is going to be important to you. You've got to really explain to me why, so that I can answer you.
Okay, I won't press any harder. But thank you very much, and hope to speak to you soon. But we wish you all the best in Kenya, and hopefully you get a peaceful election. You're welcome. Thank you. So that was Maurice Ugala Uma, who's He's a blogger, he's an activist, and he's also a developmental consultant. It's giving us. So let me come to Dr. Zibling there. Doctor, I mean, should we even concern ourselves with what's happening in Kenya?
Of course. I think, well, first of all, let me say good evening to you, cherished viewers, especially the good people of Gushigo, where I'll be heading to this weekend.
I was going to invite myself. That one of these days.
We certainly have to go.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful place, so just like your little republic. Very beautiful. But yes, I think Kenya is one important country that you cannot wish away and ignore in terms of our African geopolitics. And especially for us in Ghana, we have a very strong bilateral relationship with Kenya. Starting from their first president and our first president, they were very close in Nkrumah and Kenyatta, and they built together in the OAU then, and right from there we kept that close ties with Kenya, and there are some similarities. Of course, we compete in the areas of economy and all of that, but in terms of African economy, I think Kenya is about the third largest economy if you take away South Africa and Nigeria. Kenya, arguably, between Kenya and Ivory Coast. So it's an important country. And especially for us in Ghana, we are always seen as the country that, set the path and lead in these areas. And it's unfortunate what happened with McMahon, of course, because that tend to sour the relationship. And I think that's why it's difficult for the government of Kenya to even come out with a statement. We hope that we'll get past that. First of all, we hope that they get through this in a very peaceful way. What I wanted you to ask him was, I think there's a reportage that they will be voting tomorrow, actually. I'm not sure whether...
Yeah, there were problems with certain places that didn't have access to, because it's electronic, so they had problems with the 4G or 3G network. Yeah.
So they are repeating Ghana 2012.
Oh,
and I just hope that... I see. And it will be because the numbers that are still out...
They stayed on late. I didn't realize they were moving.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I would have.
And there are still significant numbers out. So he just said that they have reported over 50%.
No, 50%.
50%.
But Uhuru is leading on 55%. But for those who are not up to date on Kenya elections, the president now is Uhuru Kenyatta, who is from the Jubilee Party, and then the main contender is Raila Odinga, who's from the National Super Alliance. So he's the main. So that's the MPP NDC basically. That's them, and they are competing. And as of now, the president is leading by 55%. The running opposition, the main opposition, is tailing with 43%, but they've only declared 50% of the vote, and they're still, they're still going. Kenya got its independence in '63, and they're about 46 million population with about 19 million people who are eligible to vote. That's how come we always argue that we are too much. That's one of the bases that says that we are too much.
It's the names, because then it's a throwback of the early 60s. You had these two names that comes up. In the 60s, you had, of course, Jomo Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, Sr. And they were fiercely contesting. Of course, in the end, after 1964, Kenyatta became president after he won the elections and made Odinga the vice president. But of course, Odinga had his own ambition to become president, so that battle kept on. And now in the 21st century, there's a repeat. This is the second time they are going at each other. And actually, as for Raila Odinga, this is the third time that he is running. His third time. Okay. Yeah, and well, there are those who think that maybe third time, lucky. And he's older. He's 72, I think. 72. As against 55-year-old sitting president. It's a very close contest, very close. And I think it's going to go down the wire.
Let me stay with you, Fabian Dokin. With this deportation of McMeno, they've been quite sensitive with regards to electronic. I mean, the guy who had the ICT, got shot. He's just saying that the ICT center got raided. Here's McMenu, who's the ICT guru who declared elections before. So, I mean, could that have set people on air thinking, no, look, this guy coming and ICT and everything, look, he's better off in Ghana?
Just as in Ghana, Kenya, after the 2007 election and the conflict and all of that, really invested in electoral reforms. And one of the things that they brought on board was actually the electronic transmission of votes. And that is where everybody is afraid in terms of vote rigging. That in the traditional way, where you were counting and everybody has to wait for the counting to be done and you transport the ballot papers and all of that. With electronic transmission, things happen. And they do happen, even in advanced democracies. And so I think for the sitting president and his party, they were really afraid that if, somebody comes in and he has a background in electronic and he's coming in as a guest of the opposition, I think, that was not something they would accommodate. So this electronic systems of voting, they advance your electoral process, but they are also open for, for abuse, if you like. But for me, I'm not sure McMeno was going there with any ill motive. I don't know what intelligence they had about him. He went there actually as a representative of the International Democratic Union of Africa, which he chairs. He's actually the chairman of the IDU. And so he was nominated, I guess, by the IDU to go and observe the elections. Now, for all political parties across the world, based on your political philosophy or ideology, you are affiliated or aligned to one international group or the other. And I think he was going on that goal. So we'll wait and see what will happen after the elections, whether they will come back and apologize. But we are glad that they didn't hurt him, and I think he should be back safely now. But yes, the fear of somebody coming in and having an advantage or giving advantage to your opponent as far as the electoral process is concerned, I think actually probably would have motivated that unfortunate incident, actually, very unfortunate. We in Ghana in 2016 were able somehow to if you like, well, I won't say minimize the potential for that Reagan. And the MPP did well.
You took everybody by surprise and declared.
Well, again, we also took advantage of technology, and the same technology that probably they are afraid of. If you prepare yourself, and especially if you come through what we came through in 2012, you want to make sure that you cover all. And then I think Odinga, was trying to take a page.
Let's see how it goes.
Our book.
I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I come back, I'll ask Dr. Echi an unfair question as to who do you think would win. I mean, it's such a heated, but I know he's spoken to so many people on the ground. Let's see what he thinks as to who is going to win. It's not easy snatching power from a sitting president, but after a third time, you must have something in the bag, so don't go where we are coming. Well, thank you very much for staying. And Kenyan general elections, and very interesting. With me in studio is Dr. Ziplim Idi, wears many hats, Honorable Member of Parliament for Gushegu. He has Gushegu very dear to his heart. And then Dr. Echi Sikangu, lecturer, School of Communication, and host of International Affairs. Doc, I mean, you've spoken to quite a few people. What's the feeling? I mean, who do you think is going to win this?
Well, I mean, you are right. We did speak to quite a number of people. We've been trying to test what the strengths of the various candidates has been on the ground. And I mean, there are two ways to look at it. If you look at the facts or the political topography of Kenya, it is inextricably intertwined, with the ethnicity. I think Maurice mentioned it. And now there's the history. And Honorable talked about the history, Jomo Kenyatta, Odinga, and all of that. So if you look at the political history, you look at the ethnic composition, and then you look at how things are. I mean, it's not too difficult, Fortunately or unfortunately, the political fault lines are drawn on ethnic lines, right? So you have the Jubilee Party having most of their strongholds or their support from the Kikuyus, and then the Kalenjin. The Kikuyu is the largest group, the Kalenjin are the third largest. You go to Raila Odinga, he draws his support from the fourth largest group, that is the Luo, and then from the second largest group, that is the Luha. Now, there's a coalition. And I have a professor who used to say even Barack Obama could never win an election in Kenya. Why does he say that? Because with the Kikuyu being the majority ethnic group, they are already the majority. Now they combine with the Kalenjin, who are the third largest. I mean, that's almost impregnable or impenetrable.
That's 12%.
Right. Some analysts even say that the two combined puts them around 40% or a little over 40%. I was reading something from the Brookings Institution, which put it at that. So that's already a little over 40. Now, you have Raila from the Luo, who are not even the first largest, not the second, not the third, but only the fourth. And the Kenya population statistics put them around probably a little under, close to 4 million. So that's the fourth. And then they combine with the Luha, who are the second. See, so, I mean, it's tricky. Even that doesn't really get them far. And the thing about the Luha is that they don't vote en bloc. They are not a dependable vote because they are also split. And then, so I mean, Uhuru starts, he does have a head start, let's just face it. And that's why my professor used to say that even, Obama is a Luo. Okay. He's a Luo. And even if he ran in Kenya, he probably wouldn't win because of that. So that is what it is. But then Odinga has managed to assemble a coalition, the NASA coalition, made up of Isaac Ruto. He is from the Kalenjin region. Then we have Musyoka, who is his running mate. Musyoka, he's from the northeastern part of the country. And then you have, I think, Moses Wetangula, who is the Luha. Moses Wetangula, who is a Luha. And then he has another support from I believe, the Kaba. Okay, so now he's gotten, they call them the principals, the 5 principals. So he has Moses Wetanga, he has Isaac Ruto, he has Musyoka, there's what's his name, Odinga himself, and then there's one from the Kaba region. So that has made them a little bit formidable, to be able to mount any viable challenge to Jubilee, to the Jubilee coalition, because without that, I mean, it would have been really, really, really hard to see how what they would do. Now, the thing with the Jubilee is that William Ruto, who is the vice presidential candidate for Jomo Kenyatta, he's also very strong. You see, William Ruto is very strong in the Rift Valley area, you know, and they are very populous as well. So you look at that, and for me, I mean, well, not just for me, but if you look at all of these things, I do think that what's the word that they use in elections? He has the advantage. Uhuru Kenyatta has the advantage. But then there are other things going on over there. Kenyans have complained about the dominance of the Kikuyu in their political history. And so they are looking forward to a break, you know, from this dominance. There is a new generation of young people who want to make a difference, who want to see, I mean, something new, something fresh, some diversity in the political space. So that is also another factor that might influence the outcome. There is also a lot of concern with corruption within the incumbent government. And people have complained that Uhuru Kenyatta has not been successful in stemming the tide of corruption. In fact, he came close to giving up, saying that it's very difficult to uproot corruption. So I believe these factors. So there's the ethnicity and the tribal stuff, but then there's the young people there, and then there are the issues, you know, on the ground, the issue of corruption, and I think unemployment is a major issue. And then the third thing is food security. You know, they just had a drought in Kenya, and that has affected food production, I mean, by a very, very, very huge margin. So you put all these forces together, and it looks like Odinga does this time around, and that's why people are saying that it's a very hotly contested race, because it looks like this time around he has the opportunity to give Uhuru Kenyatta a really, really good run for the money. But you know, the facts are the facts. You know, people always vote based on ethnic fault lines, and the support is really, really strong for both Uhuru and Ruto in their various regions. And you see, the Rift Valley is very rich in terms of the population. You know, so they have Rift Valley. I mean, when I say they, I mean the Jubilee Coalition. They have the Rift Valley region. They have Nairobi. They have the eastern part of Kenya. That is already giving them a huge, I mean, based on population numbers, we're talking numbers here, that gives them a huge amount, I mean, of votes already. Now, you go to the western region and the coastal areas, and then the northeast region. That is where Odinga has a stronghold. But then the population is not as much. So he does need to ramp up voter turnout. You see, this is where voter turnout really, really matters. He does really need to ramp up the numbers and get his people out as much as possible, all of them to vote, and hope that maybe the disaffection, you know, with the incumbent candidate might help him to cross the finishing line.
On that note, let's listen to Dr. Vladimir Nchidansu, who's also into you know, foreign issues.
It's a do and die affair. It's an election which will redirect or give a redirection to Kenyan politics. Why do I say that? Because in the first place, you have Raila Odinga representing the dynasty and having the last shot, I believe. I don't hope he's going to have another chance of trying to vie for the presidency. For Kenyatta and Ruto, the marriage was a marriage of convenience because of what happened some 10 years ago. And so they need this election, they need a win also to at least buy time over the ICC, whatever it is hanging over their heads. Because people thought that was the end of it, it's thrown away. It's not the case. In fact, for lack of evidence, for lack of whatever it is now, the case has been suspended. And so if today the president is a free man walking and there are new evidence of him being hauled before the ICC, he will be arrested in the country that he travels. So he would need this to at least buy time and cement his position if he proves to be a good president. After all, people forget about all those things. So it's an election which is very, very important for Kenyans. Kikuyus, the Luos or Lushos, and the Kalinjes. And they have been used specifically and tactically for elections in Kenya. The Kikuyus are about 33% of the Kenyan population. The Luos or Lushos are about 30%. The Kikuyus always need the support of other tribes. And they always go with the Kalinjes, who are about 12%. If they get them, and they get the Meru and the Embu, these are the 4 or 5 groups that form the Kikuyu group, if you want to make. So if you watch out, Arap Moi was brought as a Kalinje to help build that kind of matrix that I'm talking about. So on his own, he would never have won any elections as a Kalinje. It is one of the prime factors in determining who becomes a president. And for once, it was in 2002 where Raila Odinga supported the Kikuyu in order to break away from a certain dynastical rule, corruption, and that kind of thing. But he was betrayed, and that is why he came very strongly in 2007 for a challenge. You know, it was the first time the tribal this thing was going to be broken or that kind of thing. But unfortunately, they were unable to break that, and that we're still having that. So this election is again one of the elections that is going to play the card of the ethnic group. So, and I can believe that. My instinct tells me that the president will have the nod because if you watch how they wanted to change how elections are done, and then the head of the election commission was killed, and I think it was for a purpose to put brakes on those who would really want the elections to be extremely free and fair. We are being told the elections are going on very well, free, fair, but I tell you, it is within the free and fair that manipulations are made.
Well, that was Dr. Vladimir Enchidanso also sharing very, very important insights there. But let me come to Dr. Zibling. I mean, there's a lot of tribal sentiment in there, and it seems to take small precedence, if not, good precedence over issues. Yeah. How would they get over it?
Well, it's unfortunate about African politics. There are other issues, of course, that will come to play when it comes to elections in any African country. But unfortunately, I think it was Claude Eke who said that in Africa, ethnicity is the easiest political tool for political mobilization. So politicians will always go to that when it's crunch time. And unfortunately, it's going to play out in these elections also. I think that with what happened in 2007, Kenyans will not want to wind the clock and go back to that. I think that the Kenyan people want to go forward. They want to move on. And I would pray that they will prove, skeptics of Africa wrong again. That they will come out of this election peaceful so far. It's been reported to be peaceful. And that I think the biggest test is the results. Once the results starts coming out, and especially the final call is made, that is when you will really test the ethnic, whether they will accept it or whether they will reject it. I think that for these elections, if you follow the run-up to the campaigns, other issues, came up, corruption, the economy, and dynasty, and all of that. But in the end, ethnicity will always trump all these other factors. But let's pray for the people of Kenya. As I indicated earlier on, Kenya is an important country in Africa, and we all pray that what happened in 2007 will not repeat itself. Let me just say again that I think for Odinga, this is it. It's either you win or you lose and go home forever. There won't be a second chance for him.
But how old is he, 70?
72.
72. 77, he can take another shot?
Well, I think Reagan came at 76. So, yes, you can rule it out.
You can take another shot.
Yes. Well, again, I'm actually even surprised that it's so close because I thought that Kenyatta, given the chance in the last 5 years, would have done so well. He came in with a lot of hopes, and I think the people of Kenya really had, confidence in him, especially in the aftermath of the conflict in 2007, what the country went through. Unfortunately, he has not actually done well, especially in arresting corruption. And if corruption is going to be a bigger issue, as we speak now, we don't have what they call exit polls to tell what were people voting on. But I'm telling you, if they were voting based on corruption, I think Odinga will carry the day. If corruption, arresting corruption should trump ethnicity, the NASA opposition party will carry the day.
Well, according to the Daily Nation, which is a Kenyan website, so the presidential elections at the moment, 9.865 990, so 9.8 million votes cast, and that's 167 out of 291 constituencies reported. Uhuru Kenyatta has got 5.4 million, and Raila Odinga has got 4.3 million votes cast. So that's
if I may, let me just quickly comment on the earlier discussion on the complex nature of.
Then let me take a break and come back, because I need that. We're taking a quick break, and then when we come back, we find out how it is they are playing, who's stronghold and who's doing what. We're coming back. Okay, so I gave you the results just before the break, and then Dr. Ziblim, you wanted to come in there.
Yes, I just wanted to explain that actually what the electoral system that they are using is proportional representation, and it's a system that is, praised for its accommodation of minority, groups, disadvantaged groups, groups that, if not for that, will not be represented either in parliament or at the state level or even at the local level. And the second aspect of the, getting 24% of the local, arrangement is so that, a party will be seen as a national in character. So you are not just getting votes from strongholds as in Ashanti or Volta. You are getting your votes all across, and they should contribute towards your winning. So that's a good system. I think that there are those who advocate the proportional representation system for us here in Ghana, so that we can get more women representation. Their constitution actually spells out that they should remain, I think, 46 seats. 47 for women. And there's accommodation for disabled and all of that.
I mean, Doc, do you subscribe to that, or you are, look, it's open for all, go in there and fight for your seats?
Yeah, no, I completely understand my senior here, Honorable. You actually asked about how we can curb the whole ethnic stranglehold on politics. I think that might be one school of thought that could explain it. And others have also said that a certain power sharing, quote unquote, where the various minority groups are given a certain stake, within the government. So, and I think it kind of worked during the 2007 conflict when Kofi Annan had to go in and they had the new constitution. So you had a president, you had a prime minister, I believe, and then 2 deputy prime ministers. And so it was very, very diverse. Other minority groups were able to take part. The marginalization was taken care of. So I subscribe to that. I mean, with what Honorable just mentioned.
There isn't time, but in Africa, are we trying to perfect a wrong system?
Well, that's a big question. It goes back to the issue of whether this is really for, the age-old question is democracy, are we good for Africa or not? And when Rwanda had their elections on Friday, I treated the same topic on my program, and that came up again because you have this strong man in Paul Kagame. The debate has been, is he a visionary or is he a transformative leader because of the so-called dictatorial position that he's taken, even within a democracy. But also he's been praised at the same time for the economic progress that he's made, about 7%, rise in GDP and all of that. That is huge. When you go to Rwanda, and people are always praising them for the changes that they've done, women representation, Wi-Fi in buses, and all of that. So I understand where you're coming from. Should we?
For another day. I think it's a conversation for another day. But Dr. Zibli, we need to comment of Jacob Zuma before you go. 8 times trying to vote on no confidence, and he's still in there.
For the 6th time, I think
for the 9th time.
Ninth time he escaped, but this time it was very close, very close. And then I think that he's not outed because I think about 20 people from the ANC actually voted with the opposition.
How does it affect you as a president?
Jacob Zuma has been a lame duck president for a long time. He's been sitting there, and in terms of legitimacy, yes, he was voted in, but he's not been able to really and truly exercise powers as president, if not for the ANC. And so he's not out. As a matter of fact, I think the speaker or one of the leaders of ANC actually said that they really want him out, but they want the ANC to be the one to do that, not the opposition. No, not the
majority leader in parliament.
So he's look. I think that if another call is made before December, yes, because it was very close. So it's a shame what is happening to South Africa because of what it means to Africa in terms of the economy, and we just hope that they will get over it. Corruption is just endemic, and we all complain about corruption here in Ghana, but I think the South African situation is different. I mean, the figures out there is just, well, Nigeria, I'm not sure, but it's bad.
I was reading Minister for Health or something. I mean, he had about 12 Range Rovers and was requesting another 6. I mean, it was something ridiculous like that. But Dr. G, I mean, I know it's not an African thing, but, you know, should a man like this say, you know what, run your elections, I have my 3 wives, I'm retiring on all my emoluments, I'm going to my ranch to go and chill.
Yeah, you mean for him to resign on his own volition? On his own.
I mean, if you trying to get me out,
come after him.
This
immunity.
Yeah. Well, I
came to power with 1 wife. I'm going with 3. You know, I have a beautiful home. You know, you're going to pay me till the day I die. Give me my security. What is it that it's amongst that we are unable to?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that will make a lot of people happy if he said that. But you see, Obama himself said one time that he's pretty sure that if he was to run again for a 3rd term, he would win. You see, but then it's not about that. It is about respecting the Constitution, it's about respecting the laws, and then letting the system run.
Letting the system run. Thank you so much, Dr. Zipline D and Dr. Echi Sikanku. Tomorrow will be Hard Truth, and then after we'll be back to do this all over again. It's been wonderful, but definitely we are in a global village. We are not insulated from its problems, so we concern ourselves and educate ourselves. And Prophet Muhammad says there's nothing better than seeking knowledge. And so we have to seek knowledge. Thank you very much for watching. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.